What up, everybody? Good morning. Lonnie here, Charts and Labs. Um, it is December 17th. What is it today? Wednesday morning. It's just before opening bell for the stock market, so I figured I would jump on and make a quick little video of kind of like how I did my previous one about the macro of crypto. This is kind of my morning routine of what I do. And we throw on and start seeing what the talk is on all the headline shows. I typically lean on Bloomberg a little bit just because of the global talk that they shed. But I do bounce around between multiple because I like getting all the opinions. I also have my Chat GPT set up to greet me in the morning at 6 a.m. with a key takeaway of what's going on in the market amongst my watch list that I've already set up for it. So far, we have some winners and some unusual activity. MedX is 700% surge. Headline in the chip narrative: Global AI chip fever. Reuters is making a nice little article. MetaX shares rocket 700% in debut as China AI chips push gather speed. So something to think about with China starting to push up its chips. Right now, Nvidia is kind of like the chip messiah. So seeing China come into the play is got to be a little bit of pressure on them. I really like right now Intel, AMD, and Nvidia. Nvidia is just kind of that one who's just ran and been proven. I do like AMD both, or AMD and Intel also. CoreWeave is one that I like as well. They're kind of that smaller up and coming data center. Um, who has some really good upside, and they were doing really well, and then they've really gotten smacked down um, lately. So we might peek and see what's going on with them today, and make that be the kind of the headline of this video. Sector trends: AI and data center demand remains core theme. That's what everybody needs, everybody wants. But there's a mix of speculative highs and valuation caution as everybody's trying to kind of to see how much they need to be into that. Um, Memory and chips pressure. Micron in focus ahead of earnings, probably this week later. I know those targets jump. Micron's doing really good with the memory side. They're going to be a big player in what's unfolding, and they're one that you could have been buying a lot of shares of and just been sitting back and collecting on. Driven by pricing data centers, right there. Market mood is very cautious. Not quite deeply negative. There is a rotation going on between the macro. Uh, there is some rotation going on out of tech into the more stable um, seasonal chips and such. Macro data headlines moderating flows ahead of key economic prints. We're still getting a lot of this stuff from the government shutdown, just kind of unfolding and coming out. Unemployment and some other numbers that are creating some uncertainties in the Fed, and uncertainties is bad for the market. So I said, hey, let's dive deeper into Intel, AMD, and Nvidia. Again, those are kind of uh, my main three that I like right now. Intel transition and sentiment check, turnaround progress and profitability. Uh, Intel swung to profitability in recent quarters after years of losses, supported by cost cuts and strategic refocusing. Margins and growth remain modest compared to its peers. It's not making as much as Nvidia, but it doesn't quite have the demand that Nvidia has to make that price on top. Nvidia has been saying, "Yeah, we're sold out of our next generations of chips, and we don't even know what they are." Nvidia's just got insane demand for its GPUs for this AI boom. Intel secured U.S. support, external investments earlier. They named Trump on the advisory board, so they really leaned into this government backing thing, and that's interesting a little bit. Foundry and AI positioning, the rumor flow. Nvidia invested that $5 billion. That was back in September. Rumors around foundry relations with AI silicon customers persist. There are type of this is the catalyst that we're looking for when you're talking about investing in Intel. Is that's great. You guys are one of the three founders, and you guys are the USA one. We like this. Help us with our supply. We are struggling. Elon said a couple weeks ago that there is more chip demand than any one single foundry can make. Most likely, everybody's going to need to use at least two, and there's only three. So, Intel, Taiwan Semiconductor, and Samsung. And so you're gonna have to lean on at least two of them to supply the major players that have the biggest demand. So analysts continue to debate the valuation, legal, the EU antitrust case recently resolved, fine reduced. Yeah, the EU is just being kind of wild right now. They got a little wild hair and are kind of going after all the tech players. And chip sectors got caution. Broadcom and Oracle really kind of put a damper on the mood. Tech and AI was trying to party, and those guys said, "Hold on a second." So bullish triggers for Intel. We're looking for that foundry customer. Strategic acquisition announcement is that Samba Nova. We want all the details and how that's going to make money. And a positive guidance for next earnings, talking about where the money's coming from. Because a lot of the money that was in this earnings was from the government staking. And then they already have it. And NVIDIA's money coming in for next earnings to hit the book. So we're going to have back-to-back good earnings no matter what. But what else on top of that kind of thing? So earnings guidance, soft data, demand, macro risk. AMD is here in a competitive position. From what I was reading a little bit earlier, because I did kind of peek at this before starting recording, AMD is not only creeping in on Intel's CPU market, they are also creeping in on NVIDIA's GPU market. So, so there's the three chip makers. It's Intel, Taiwan, and Samsung. Those guys are making the chips. The materials come from another group, but that's not here nor there. The designers are all of these big players. AMD is kind of chip focused and GPU focused in designing. They don't make their own chips other than what they probably make in house for their R&D. Nvidia is making their GPUs. Again, they make a little bit in house, but you have to send in the specs to everybody to make them for them. Google, Microsoft, Apple, Apple started making their own in India. They left Intel formerly. Broadcom, a lot of these guys are using some form of supplier to make them. But like of the main pieces that are foundational in the chip making, you kind of got to go through Intel, Taiwan, and Samsung. And then these other guys are trying to figure out how to, do with what they can. But the designers are mostly like AMD and NVIDIA. So that's kind of how you separate the two. AMD's narrative, their MI400 series and server AI CPU traction are a key product. So this is kind of what all the data centers are after. They're looking for these AI chips, AI stacked GPUs, AI chiplets that are CPU and GPU, and the performance of those. AMD often viewed as the best second engine in AI chips, meaning it benefits both from broad adoption and being the default alternative to NVIDIA. NVIDIA can't keep up with the demand of everybody, so it kind of just spills over and you have to get some AMD also. Looking for larger contracts. It is CPU penetration into Intel, GPU penetration into NVIDIA. Macro demand softening. NVIDIA, what's going on with them? Has been consolidating after a major run. Shares closed slightly positive recently despite broader tech sell-off. NVIDIA is one that can fight the macro. They are the biggest player. They're obviously the largest valued company in the stock market, but they are just the one. You know, they can break the mold. Like all of tech can be down, Nvidia can still be up. The whole stock market can be down, Nvidia can still be up. Everybody else thinks that the stock market is in a great condition, or tech is kind of rallying in some of the other sectors, and Nvidia hits some bad news and it can kind of stumble a little bit. So Nvidia is big enough to be its own world kind of thing. 90% shared out of the GPU, so that other 10% is pretty much split up between everybody else, and probably with the majority being uh, AMD and Intel. Remains strategic, but that's hard for AMD and Intel to replicate. Macro headwinds, it's, you know, the Broadcom and Oracle is bad on everybody, but the big thing that's hitting, you know, these chip guys, the designers and the foundry, is what is China doing? And China's trying to jump in here and get competitive chips at a huge discount and just kind of, you know, upset the market kind of thing. So AI demand is still intact, just sentiment is very volatile. There's a rotation into the defense and infrastructure plays. Data center spend is still a core thesis. You know, everybody's trying to think the amount of money that we're spending on these chips and everything. What is what is the return on it? Are we making money, or are we just kind of throwing stuff and building the coolest, you know, chatbot? What is actually making money out of this stuff? And um, so that's kind of the uncertainties that we're looking at. But summary: Intel is in a mixed and volatile state. Turnaround versus the AI Foundry execution. Foundry customer wins, strategic AI deal. This is what we're looking for them. AMD steady growth bias, server AI, CPU, and GPU momentum. So they're trying to, you know, obviously get better product and then sell it. So they're very, you know, tunnel vision. We know what they need. Large cloud and data center contracts. We're looking for them to land. Um, Resilient leadership, data center GPU dominance, next gen GPU adoption, strong guidance. So basically for Intel and AMD, they're very dependent, looking for that big customer. Who's going to come use us? And Nvidia is just looking to maintain its dominance and make sure that everybody's still buying their new chips, because, you know, that's the whole backlog series that we're looking for. We can do that. No, let's jump over here now and check out the charts of them. So let's look at Intel real quick. So I like looking at the 15-minute, and let's see. I don't have extended hours. We could bring those in, and this is what's kind of coming into the morning right now. I'm on the Eastern time zone. I don't want that. Oh, local time. There we go. Is this right now? No, why did it do that? Whatever, we'll leave it. So this is on East Coast time. We got 3 minutes opening and pretty flat, nothing crazy. Let's look at AMD. 15-minute had a little high, so this will be this big wick though is kind of pointing to me. Something sparked some excitement, and we're looking to see if this is going to continue to test this. I would look for an early morning, early in the session test of that. See, right now sitting around 210, and there might be a quick move to 213. So that's a point of interest to look at. Let's see. Nothing real crazy in Nvidia, just kind of a smooth little rally. So nothing fun there. Let's see. Let me draw a ray just because I want to see. That was basically a horizontal. So we have a pretty hard top right here, slightly down. Our MACD is curling, RSI is curling. So Nvidia could lead the direction for some excitement. We do have some green pre-market. That's nice to see after a while. So Nvidia had a nice, or I'm sorry, Intel had a nice solid move up, full body candle, small wick, and it's kind of just built across that. Very flat, pretty high but flat here. RSI in a reset pattern after that big move up. I like Intel for not being crazy. The question would be is, are they going to go up at open? So of the big moves, AMD's is kind of the most exciting. You know, this horizontal line, 43. Come on, so right there. We'll just do that line. I'm gonna look at AMD at open. The first 15 minutes is a bad time to play the market. You kind of want to sit and see the direction that they're going to go. A lot of times they like to do a fake out, and we got to see if there's going to be a fake out or if it's going to continue. A lot of times they'll show you what they're going to do, and then they give you a little sleight of hand misdirection kind of thing. So yeah, AMD is looking like a move up. I did want to see CoreWeave because they had so much going for them. They're new. They don't have a huge established. I'm gonna take extended out. This is just during the day, and let me see. Can I? I wanted to clear all my drawings. There we go. Delete all. Okay. We want to not be overwhelmed by that. Let's do the daily. And as you can see, they went public over here, back in March, and came out really strong, ran up, and then now we're, right here in this little midline. You thought 83 was going to hold. If we draw a horizontal here, it's kind of that midline. And we had this test. You kind of hope that those level and hold. But whenever you have a big run up like that and you establish kind of the high, in a big rally or a big exciting price, you're looking for it's called price discovery, and this discovered that 187 is the high, but data centers are just such a huge player right now in the AI world that we're looking for this to come back up. When we zoom in on this, we are looking at. I want to add my what are we not calling it now? I don't have that one on here no more. So we're looking at the daily. Each one of these candles is a daily representation. We saw that mid test, and now we're coming down more. So MACD momentum is kind of flatlining. It looks like it wants to try to come up and retest because it is pretty oversold. But this is kind of that point of decision. Which way is it going to go? So let's do a ray just because I don't want to go too crazy. So from when that was there and about there, we see top, and now we're going to see if this becomes support. So there's a good chance that we are going to see CoreWeave continue to go down unless a catalyst reverses. So something that I would do with this one is I like looking at the open interest in the calls down here, and obviously this week is a little bit too short, but let's look at next month, which is January 16th. These are the monthly contracts. Are always the third week of the month. And then we're going to come right now, prices in the $69 range. So where's the open interest and excitement? So 232, 6 is a little bit bigger at 80, and that's common because it's a big round number. And it's not too much bigger. 3, 5, 5, 17. This is a big number. You know, a lot of people thinking of a rally back up to 100, and this is one that can move, you know, 10 or 15% pretty quickly. 17 to 120. A lot of these guys also might have bought in back, you know, in October, uh, late October, before the tech kind of plummet. These guys are probably loading up for these, being that the anticipation was data centers were just going to explode next year. So if we come and say, hey, this needs a couple months to recover, see what March has got. 30,000 at 100. That is definitely going to be a point of interest. So again, I like that number. Because March contracts have not been out long enough, and if we probably went and looked at the volume of this contract itself, see if it'll let me go. It won't let me go to that. But this one's pretty expensive still, 470 at 100. Yeah, I like this on for recovery. Something tells me that we are looking forward to core science buying a data center winner, recent weakness. I wouldn't be surprised if something came over. You know, a couple of these guys like Irene. So Irene was a Bitcoin miner turned data center. CoreWeave is kind of a data center. I wouldn't be surprised if they turn into like a Bitcoin miner, something crypto relevant, and that sparks a rally. So would be one. I'm not quite ready to start adding because I'm gonna probably see. I don't want that to show that no more. If this wants to come down and retest, but if this holds a 65 and reclaims 85, I would start adding for that upward position to that 100 test. So now we're on the daily. I'm going to delete that because that's irrelevant to the daily. So on the daily candle, Intel rolled out of its positive momentum and is kind of now in this negative downturn, but we see RSI turning up, so selling pressure is turning up, and this MAC momentum is flatlining. So this would be a good day for Intel to get some positive flow on it, and we need to see this retest of 41.21, a little bit over 10%. Was it 12% move up? That's a pretty big move. It's going to take a couple days to get there unless there's a catalyst behind it. So Apple could soon package iPhone chips in India, which is crazy. That's where Intel's going. Yeah, so Taiwan Semiconductor is kind of the main player. Something like 97% of the chips are made through Taiwan, and that's terrible for the global supply. And that's really what Broadcom and Oracle said is, hey, we got killer demand and we're selling, we're spending a shit ton of money, but excuse me, we're spending a ton of money, but we can't get our supply fast enough, which means we can't install it fast enough, which means we can't sell more fast enough, and that's because their supply is getting bottlenecked from Taiwan Semi, because everybody's getting their chips from them. So, there's some more. It's like subtly hinted at that Intel's going to be leaned on a lot more for this coming on, especially as tensions between China and Taiwan increase. That's a thing that's been lingering for years, where China wants to claim Taiwan. So if they do that, there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be not happy with China holding on to the chip information, and they're going to have to lean on Samsung and Intel. So looking to see that turn as we come into the smaller timelines. We're seeing that this is bottoming, so 36 is definitely going to hold support. I would feel 1 hour is in a 1 hour is, we've got a big wick on that 1 hour. got to claim that. So what we're looking for, big wick, 37.87, looking to get back over 38 to build on some momentum. See that big massive, that 37.84 wick. And the max is showing some positive, but very flat. So it's like it wants to move up, but we're in a very kind of boring move up. So Google data center firm partners with Texas landowner. Data centers are still big, so the talk is there, the money is there, the spending is there. Right now, obviously, the sentiment is the Fed. The biggest thing is the Fed, and then what is the EU doing? So, kind of two things to watch in the news and headlines. What is the EU doing as far as its lawsuits and you know uh, restrictions that it's trying to apply on the big tech? And then what is the Fed doing? Are they loosening up Are we loosening up spending and the money printer? Or are we lowering rates and making this easier for these guys to spend this big money? Or are we tightening, and then that tightening is going to trigger a lot of people to be very uncertain of the economy. So uh, I just really like Intel. So many good rumors, and it's not overvalued. It hasn't ran up ridiculously because it was so far oversold from when the CEO left. The prior CEO spent recklessly, try to get into this foundry, which long-term goals was probably right. Just didn't have the right sentiment and didn't do it quite properly to establish itself as a key player. And it was too little, too late. It didn't jump in on the AI side to fund it. It moved its money elsewhere, um, and that caused them to struggle. And so that CEO is gone, and now they're riding the ship, and things are back on course. But it's still just barely what it should probably be worth regularly, based on sales and what it is. There's no huge forward optimistic outlook where, like with AMD and Nvidia, you have a huge multiplier on them because the demand on them is so high. So one catalyst away for Intel is kind of what I've been saying. Just need them to make it happen. But on a short term, this is kind of a very happy price that it wants to be at. 38 today would be great. Reclaim of this 90 EMA on the 15 big wick. So yeah, I think getting a test of 38 is very likely today. Um, Looks like it's trying to get some momentum. Shall see what goes on. Let's just look at the 5 minute for fun. And here was the opening candle, and that was what established that big move. And current, let's see, what is the body of this candle? So the body of this candle, it opened at 37.37, which is pretty much flat where we're at. The high was 37.84, and the low was 37.37. Or I'm sorry, low was 37.37, closed at 37.61, which gave it this green body. So at 37.30, we're looking for, we don't want to break let me see, let's go to the pre-market. What is the pre-market low before that little spike up? So this wick down right before at the end of last night's closing is going to be very telling for us. We look at that and bam. Oh, did I not draw? I forgot to pick my horizontal line. We're going to come, get off of that, bam. So looking for a bounce here. Looks like it's wanting to. And it's going to have to reclaim this line right here, this middle. What are we calling that? 37.50. We'll just go right dab in the middle. I like that number. 37 as close to we'll be 51 because we want to be positive. So bounce, reclaim here, breakout over here for a positive move today. Kind of how a quick look and how you would do that. let's check the news first to see what is the headlines and what direction do they want us to look. Then you jump into the charts and you find some points of interest. See if that's the direction that lines up and which way does it want to go. I wouldn't play a downside on Intel. I feel like it is kind of beat up a little bit, but a bounce here and a quick scalp here. I would look for a breakout above here to turn to here. These are two quick scalp opportunities. And then a breakout above this would be very bullish to hold on and let some runners go for a little bit. And if you let those runners run, let's turn the extended off. You're, where's a big wick? This kind of rounded top would be 38.67 would be a point. I mean, let's look at the bottom of that one. Here's our wick down on this red candle right here. So we want to set a horizontal line. This would be, if that is a best case scenario, is a 39.30. But our first point of interest is probably going to be the top of this one, which is 38.53. So a couple little dollar moves here. Intel doesn't always move big, like CoreWeave we were looking at. CoreWeave does some big moves, but here's some prices to watch. And looking for that. So let's go to the 1 hour. See our prices. Yeah, looking for a bounce. Be nice to see this weekend end bullish after kind of a crappy week. So we shall see. Let's see what the options flow is right now. This is monthly. Volume hasn't updated. It normally takes a while to get a true volume. There's also not a huge amount getting bought right now, probably. But this week we are looking at, wow, a lot at 40. Huge amount at 40. A lot of calls at 40. So could be a bullish run into the end of the week. And but I bet they knock it down before. So there's your quick little morning recap, our morning intro to how I do the stocks. News first. What are the headlines? What is the direction? Then you check the charts, find your levels, and if it's worth a play. The trends are your friend, and nothing is bigger than the headlines. If anything, you don't have to follow the news for what they're saying, but you just have to kind of hear it as what they want you to hear, kind of thing, and how you're going to play into it. But that's kind of my morning little intro into the stock world. I like using ChatGPT. I have mine set up to give me that 6 a.m. update. I wake up, feed the dogs, grab my coffee, get my 6 a.m. update, see if there's anything exciting going on in the world. See what are the headlines on the news sources, and then who's moving. Is anybody going crazy? Nothing really crazy because everybody's waiting. So then you kind of just look for some fun plays. This week is a monthly expiration for contracts, so expect a little bit of volatility, and maybe a good little run here since we're midweek through to see which way it wants to run. Is a fun play. Scalps are on the table though. I wouldn't go too crazy with anything for this month. And one thing that I am gonna look at for Intel while it's down right now, a big event that they have going on is in March, and it's the event is actually March 26th. Or 27th, I don't remember the exact date, but it's after this expiration. It's the following week. It's the last week of March. They have a big symposium event where they are announcing all of their 2026 customers for the foundry. Big announcement thing. So March should see some pretty exciting activity going on, and see if anybody's jumped on board. And for early contracts haven't been out that long, and there's already 40,000 at the 45, 35,000 at the 50, 27,000 at the 60, 41,000 at 55. So, and that's where they have it capped. So Those haven't been out very long, and there's already some build into it. Something to look at. I like getting into positions. That's my play. I like getting in way early. I like seeing where these guys are trying to, where they want the price to kind of go and what they're pushing. So like, I mean, I would say, oh, this, these 44s are appealing to me. 44 for $1.84. It looks like you'll probably most likely spend about $2 per contract, which is $200. Or $200. Two on the contract is a $200 contract. I'm sorry. And with the big interest at the 45, those will be in the money. If the 45s are in the money, or 44s would also be. Um, and if we saw that 45 being, $1.70, that makes it 46.80, which is a double up on these. And to me, it's a very safe. It's a very safe play. Intel is down now, and there's a lot of possibility for a big positive move. If it could at least get to 45, it would be huge. But if it breaks 45, the next level is 55. And those contracts right here that are $1.84 to $2 um, would be $10 in the money, meaning that each one of these contracts would go from $200 to over $1,000 a piece, which is 5 times your investment. Now, granted, it is all the way out till March, and you don't know, but that gives you all the time to not have to worry about these moves, because like right now for guys this week, we're looking at moves between 37.20 and 38.50. But over the time, there's some appealing big upside here with a lot of interest at the 55 and up zone for Intel. So uh, hope the stock talk didn't bore you too much. I'll try to get a little bit more specific and direct on some of these, but I just kind of wanted to show you that little fun option that you can do with ChatGPT. Give it a watch list of stuff that you like, and say, hey, every morning at 6 a.m., break it down for me. I have one for crypto, the crypto plays that I like, and I do that one at 6 p.m. Kind of the 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. kind of play. A lot of the crypto news comes out later, also because of the Asia markets, and then with that little short close in the afternoon for us. So that's kind of why I chose that. Market opens at 6:30 here on the West Coast, so I'm up at 6 a.m. kind of following the world. So if I was making a play, I'd start building that position. Not financial advice by no means. I'm not an expert. I'm not a guru. I just like looking for this kind of stuff, and I like sharing what I see and why I see it as a positive. And I like getting people's opinions. So if you have an opinion, if you have a certain stock that you like, if you have a sector that you like, again, I kind of follow all these and in the separate places, and I love getting into this stuff and kind of talking and seeing what we got. So they said infrastructure is kind of the big one, and I don't see anything crazy going on in these guys. Defense stocks, they got bought. I haven't changed that yet. Let's go look at logistics. The shipping season is here. All the online shopping, Amazon. These guys, I haven't deleted them either. Yeah, so there's some stuff going on. Oil and gases prices are all over the place on this. These guys are all way down. So Occidental Petroleum, this is a Warren Buffett one that he bought a ton in the 60s, and um, it's been a long time since it's been in the 60s. I don't think Warren Buffett is very happy with this one, because he bought way back here. He bought I think he bought here in this valley, and he's down. So uh, Warren Buffett's down in a stock. He's not down very long, I'd say that. If you like oil and gas plays, I don't think these guys have a huge dividend. Press release corporate brief. Where's their... What's their cash flow? That wasn't very good. Anyway, I'm gonna get stuck on this, and I'll keep filming all day. Quick little 40-minute video that was supposed to be 20. You know how I go. I'll get these shorter, and they'll be easier to watch in the morning. Till then, catch me rambling, catch me looking at the stocks. I'm gonna go probably check out some crypto stuff and see what's going on in the crypto world. And catch you guys on the next one.